Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to get you the insights that, well, genuinely matter. Today, we're tackling something many of us think we get, but maybe don't fully grasp. What is ChatGPT really used for? We're moving past the guesswork, the anecdotes, to look at some hard data on how this huge technology is actually weaving itself into our daily lives.
And we've got an amazing source for this, a brand new NBER working paper that really feels like it's finally opening the black box on ChatGPT use. And the scale here is it's staggering. They look at 1.5 million conversations. From consumer plans, we're talking roughly 700 million weekly users by mid-2025, sending something like 2.5 billion messages every single day.
Wow.
And the paper's conclusion, it's not just some popular app anymore. They're calling it infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Okay, that's a big word. Sounds almost foundational for something that still feels pretty new to many. So, our mission today is to unpack 5, let's say, surprising insights from this study. We want to pull out the key bits of knowledge, the practical stuff that matters to you, whether you're, a student running a team or working solo. Get ready for maybe a few aha moments, things that might just change how you think about AI, its value, and maybe how you could be using it. Let's jump in. Okay, so massive scale, billions of messages. Where is all this happening? What's the first big surprise about where people are using ChatGPT?
Well, here's the first shocker, I think. About 70% of consumer ChatGPT use.
Yeah.
It's not for work. It's personal, non-work stuff. And that share, it's actually been going up pretty significantly.
70%. Really, not
Yeah,
work.
70%. Work use is growing, don't get me wrong, but personal use is growing much faster. So you're only thinking about this in terms of workplace productivity. You're missing, well, most of the picture, most of the value being created.
Wow, okay. I admit, I kind of assumed it was mainly a work tool, getting things done faster at the office. So what does it tell us about the maybe hidden value it's adding to people's lives, stuff we don't usually measure?
Exactly. And the numbers really hammer this home. Daily messages shot up from, 451 million in June 2024 to 2.63 billion by June 2025.
That's incredible growth.
It is. And during that same time, the non-work share went from 53% up to 73%. The paper is really clear. This isn't just some temporary thing. It's the new baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And economists are trying to put a number on this consumer surplus, the value people get beyond the price they pay. They estimate U.S. users would need about $98 to give up generative AI for just a month.
$98 a month.
Yeah, which implies, at least $97 billion in annual surplus back in 2024. And the key point is a huge chunk of that value is landing right in people's personal lives. It's often invisible to things like GDP. It's personal enrichment, not just, business output.
That really reframes things. Okay, so practically speaking, what's the takeaway if I'm building a product or managing a team?
Well, for product folks, content creators, the message is loud and clear. Don't just focus on work stuff. You'll miss the biggest part of the market. The personal use case is enormous. And for leaders, for teams, you kind of have to accept, maybe even embrace, that your people are already building better thinking habits at home using this. It's not something you should try to block. It's more like, how do we help people use it well? Both at work and home, they're building skills already.
That makes a lot of sense. It's already happening. So maybe here's something concrete for you listening. Try a little Monday ritual. Ask your team, or just ask yourself. Paste one non-work question you asked ChatGPT last week that actually helped. Improved your life somehow. Maybe it helped plan a trip, fix something at home, understand a tricky concept. Then look at the pattern of that question. How did you ask it? And try applying that same pattern to a work decision this week. It moves it from theory to practice, right? Using it to solve problems better. Okay, so if most use isn't work-related and it's creating all this personal value, what are people actually doing? What are the main things? What's in the big 3?
Right. The paper gives us exactly that. The big 3 ways people use it. Almost 80% of all the conversations fall into just 3 buckets: practical guidance, seeking information, and writing. These are basically the main jobs people hire ChatGPT for day in, day out.
Okay, let's break those down. Practical guidance, what does that cover?
That's the biggest single category, actually. It covers a really wide range. Things like tutoring, which is huge, about 10% of all messages on its own.
10% just tutoring.
Yeah, just tutoring. But also things like how to advise fixing stuff, negotiating deals, and creative ideation too. So brainstorming party ideas, gift suggestions, that kind of thing. It's about getting actionable help for everyday life.
Okay, makes sense. What about seeking information? How's that different from, say, Google?
The paper describes it as like a flexible web search that stays in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people look up facts, people, news, products, recipes.
Mm.
all the usual search stuff. But the key is it stays conversational. You can ask follow-up questions, ask for summaries, get clarification in a way that's harder with standard search results. And interestingly, this category seems to be gaining share. People are shifting how they find and process information.
Interesting. And the third one, writing.
Writing. This covers everything from drafting emails, summarizing things, getting edits, critiques, even translations. But here's the really crucial part, something often missed. About 2/3 of these writing tasks. They aren't starting from a blank page. It's not write me an essay. It's mostly edits or improvements to the user's text.
Ah, okay. That's a big distinction. So it's more like a writing assistant or polisher, not just a generator.
Exactly. Less about creating whole new things from scratch, more about refining what you've already started.
That feels much more realistic for how I use it sometimes. How does that specific writing use play out at work?
Well, writing is actually the single biggest work use case.
Yeah.
About 40% of work messages are about writing. And again, mostly revisions, improvements, not pure creation. Which makes sense because, as the paper puts it, writing is the connective tissue in most jobs.
Connective tissue, I like that.
Yeah, it's how ideas get shared, decisions get recorded, plans get communicated. Clear writing means clear thinking, often.
Right. It clarifies why AI help there is so valuable. So here's a practical tip for you listening, building on this. Try keeping a little before and after log for important writing, like for a key email or a short report this week. Write your draft first. Then ask ChatGPT for maybe one pass focus on clarity or tone. Note the changes. Paste both versions in your log. Look back at the end of the week. You'll likely see improvements, but more importantly, you'll see where you tend to need help. It becomes active learning, not just outsourcing. Okay, let's tackle a common perception. Many of us, especially if we follow tech news, think ChatGPT is heavily used for coding. Is that what this huge data set shows?
Yeah, that's a really popular idea, especially in certain circles.
Yeah.
But this broad consumer data, it kind of debunks that, or at least puts it in perspective. Computer programming makes up only about 4.2% of consumer conversations in ChatGPT.
Only 4.2%. Wow, why do we think it's so much higher?
Well, the perception gap likely comes from other platforms. There are AI tools specifically designed for developers, and naturally they attract a lot of coders. So discussions online, particularly in tech communities, get skewed towards that use case. But this NBER paper looked at the mainstream consumer plans, which gives a much broader picture.
Got it. So coding is important for those who use it for that, but it's not the main event for the average user.
Precisely. Coding help definitely has an impact, no question. We shouldn't downplay it. But the median user, the typical person logging in, they're asking for advice, they're refining writing, they're doing those search-like information tasks we talked about, and that's super important if you're building products or thinking about AI literacy. The audience is way broader than just developers. Yeah. Well, almost everyone.
So we've talked about what people are doing, busted a myth. What about who? Who are these hundreds of millions of users now? Has the demographic shifted?
Oh, it's shifted massively.
And incredibly.
Quickly, remember how early tech often skews male? Well, by mid-2025, the gender gap in active ChatGPT users had basically closed. It's near parity.
Really? Parity already? That's fast for new tech.
Incredibly fast. And younger users, hugely engaged. Nearly half of all the messages from adults come from people under 26. But maybe the most significant trend, the fastest growth is happening in low and middle income countries.
Wow. Okay. Gender parity, huge youth engagement, and fastest growth globally, especially outside high-income nations. What stands out to you about that global shift? Why is it resonating so broadly, so quickly?
I think it just speaks to how fundamental the needs are that it addresses. It's not niche. Think about the examples the paper hints at. Tutoring, help with complex forms like immigration papers, prepping for exams, small business marketing help, job searching assistance, language practice, understanding government websites. These are universal challenges. So the answer to what's ChatGPT used for in Nairobi or Dhaka or Bogota, it's increasingly the same as in New York or London. It's providing access, bridging information gaps, offering personalized help that used to be hard or expensive to get. That's driving this incredible global uptake. It's a tool for life.
A tool for life, not just work. That's powerful. Okay, so we know who, we know what. Let's get into the how. The nature of the interaction. What's the user's intention? The paper has this interesting way of categorizing intent, right?
Yes, they break it down really nicely into asking, doing, and expressing. Asking is the biggest chunk, about 49% of messages. Doing is around 40%. And expressing things like venting or just chatting is about 11%. And here's the key trend. Asking has grown faster than doing over the 2024-2025 period. And it also scores higher on interaction quality. People seem to find more value there.
Asking versus doing, so less make this for me and more help me think about this.
Exactly. The paper talks about this key shift. People aren't just outsourcing tasks. They are, and I love this phrase, insourcing judgment.
Insourcing judgment. Okay, explain that. Give us a concrete example. How is that different from just getting a task done?
Okay, think about a manager prepping for a big review. The doing approach is asking ChatGPT, generate the slides for my product review. Outsourcing the task. The asking approach, the insourcing judgment one, is more like, here's my draft strategy for this product launch. What are 3 critical risks I might be missing? Play devil's advocate, what would a skeptical board member push back on? Or for, say, a health context, not asking it to diagnose, obviously, but maybe helping someone structure their thoughts before seeing a doctor. Help me list the pros and cons of these different lifestyle changes my doctor suggested. You're using the AI to stress test your own thinking, explore angles, refine your decision. It's like a cognitive co-pilot.
Cognitive co-pilot. I like that. Much better than just AI assistant. It feels more collaborative. So how can we, listening right now, actually make this asking thing pay off? What's a simple pattern we can use? Okay, based on the paper, here's a really practical 4-step loop you can try. 1, frame the decision clearly. What are you actually trying to decide? 2, list your constraints. What are the boundaries? What are you willing to trade off? Be explicit. 3, ask for 2 different plans. Maybe one conservative, safe plan and one more ambitious, bolder plan. And 4, this is crucial. For each plan, ask what could go wrong? What are the failure modes? What are the early warning signs? Run through that loop, maybe even twice. The idea is you'll get to a much better, more considered decision faster than just making a quick task list based on shaky assumptions. It's not letting the AI decide, it's using it to make you think better.
And if we pull back and connect this all to the bigger picture, what's the future of work look like through this lens? The paper mapped work activities using 1-at codes and found that most work messages, they cluster around getting info, documenting it, interpreting it, thinking creatively, and making decisions. Basically, ChatGPT is hitting the highest leverage parts of knowledge work, the stuff where human thinking really adds value. The authors really lean into this idea that the value chain runs straight through decision support, that co-pilot idea again, making better calls faster.
And going back to writing, that connective tissue, why is that so dominant at work, especially the editing part?
Because writing is the medium of decisions, right? Think about it. One clear email can unblock a whole team. A tight summary gets everyone on the same page for a strategy meeting. A clear plan helps allocate resources properly. So using AI to improve your writing isn't just saving time. It's clarifying your own thoughts and making sure your decisions land effectively. It helps you build outward from your thinking.
Okay, let's try to tie this all together then. For you listening, let's get a really clean answer to what is ChatGPT really used for? Here are the key facts, the things you could, pin on a wall. Scale, massive. Around 700 million weekly users, 2.5 billion messages daily by mid-2025. It's basically global digital infrastructure now. Tilt, heavily personal. About 70% consumer use is non-work, and it's rising. Huge personal value creation happening there. Tasks. The big 3 are practical guidance, seeking information, and writing, almost 80% of use. Writing leads at work, mostly edits. Coding, important but niche in the grand scheme. About 4.2% of consumer chat. Not the main story. Intent. Asking, 49% rising, is overtaking doing, 40%, with expressing at 11%. People want a thinking partner. At work, doing is a bit higher, maybe 56%, because tasks like writing generate direct output. And people. Rapidly diversifying. Gender parity reached. Under 26s drive nearly half the adult messages. Fastest growth in lower-income countries. Truly global now.
Yeah, so the really concise takeaway. ChatGPT helps people think, decide, and write at home, at work. And because it touches these really fundamental cognitive activities, that's why the value, that consumer surplus, is so incredibly large. It's becoming woven into how we process the world.
When you strip away all the hype, the story that comes out of this data feels refreshingly human. It's not just about automating labor. People are seeking clarity, better judgment, a partner in thought.
Absolutely. And the data backs it up. That asking mode, the decision support layer, it keeps gaining ground, keeps getting higher satisfaction scores. So the message for leaders, and really for everyone listening, is pretty direct. Get good at asking better questions. Teach your teams to do it. That's where the real leverage is, the compounding returns. Empowering smarter human decisions aided by AI.
That's a great call to action. Okay, so for your move this week, let's make it really concrete, building on that decision support idea. First, pick one decision that actually matters. Work, personal, big, small, doesn't matter as long as it's real. Then run that asking loop we talked about. Frame it, list constraint trade-offs, ask for two plans, conservative, bold, and ask for failure modes warning signs for each. Use that process to make your choice. Then, maybe write a quick memo could be just for you, or to share outlining the reasoning, including how the AI input helped shape it. And finally, maybe share that simple four-step template with your team or a colleague. Spread the pattern. Use this tool to think out loud, to write with more force, and ultimately to move forward faster, maybe with a bit less regret. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive and for bringing your curiosity. We'll catch you on the next one.